All right, so now we're gonna pull some more information out of a polynomial function. Okay, we talked about synthetic division, and now we're gonna talk about the remainder theorem. I don't want you to get hooked or frustrated about how this particular unit has a ton, and it does, of theorems. And oh my gosh, now I have to memorize this theorem, and now I have to memorize that theorem. Uh, they all work together, uh, and then we'll eventually use all of them to find out information about functions. All right, so the remainder theorem says, all right, the remainder theorem says, so we take the thing that's being divided and we solve for it, right? And so instead of it being the number, it's the opposite of the number. And if we plug in that number into the function, okay, if we plug in that number to the function and we get 0, which is why one of the reasons it's called when you're solving, you're really finding the solution, you're finding the root, you're finding the x-intercept, and it's also called 0. Okay. One of the reasons it's called 0 is when you substitute it into the function, you get 0. Because the value of the, so that's one of the reasons it's called a 0. Another reason it's called a 0 is because the value of the y coordinate of an x-intercept is 0. Just FYI, in case you're on Jeopardy. All right, so the remainder theorem says if we substitute this number in to our function and we get 0, that means that the remainder is 0 and it's a factor, it's a 0. Like this guy's a factor, and then the number itself, the opposite of the number, is the 0, the x-intercept, the root, the solution. So let me show you what I mean. All right, so if we take this guy, here we are. So let's solve for the opposite. So we would get x equals -3, because I would do x plus 3 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. Okay, so now I'm going to take -3 squared plus 10x plus 10 times -3 plus 21. Okay, and you can literally type that in your calculator as is with the parentheses and all, or you can do it by hand. So -3 squared is 9. 10 times -3 is -30, and then 21. So 9 minus 30 is -21 plus 21. We get 0. All right, so we get 0. So since we get 0, this is a factor. And hang on one second. Oh, okay. Ignore the fact that it says divide. This guy is a factor, and this guy right here is a 0. Because this total, when we substituted it, the number that we get, the result is the remainder. I'm going to pause this video real quick. I'm going to get my calculator because I'm going to start my webcam. I'm going to show you a couple of things. All right, hey guys. I know I'm super awesome. Okay, I started the webcam because I wanted to show you -3 squared plus 10 times -3 plus 21. Make sure that when you do this, oops, not what I wanted to do. When you do this, you put parentheses around it. All right, and so that number there, when we substitute it, that number right there is the remainder. So since the remainder is 0, then we know that this guy right here is a factor, and then this guy right here is the actual 0. All right, let's do it again. So this was that long problem from the previous one. And so this means f of 2. So we're going to do 2 f2 to the 4th minus 2 to the 3rd minus 7, 2 squared minus 3, 2, 10. Right, I'm literally typing in my calculator exactly as is. Okay. Oh, it says -8. What? Okay. I gotta type something wrong. Nope, I did not. Okay. Okay. So I got -8. So -8, oh, that says 18. Crazy me. -8. All right, that's the remainder. I'm just gonna put it on there. All right, so that means that 2, this is not a 0. And so the factor that is associated with it, which would be x minus 2, is not a factor. Okay, let's try, what if we did f of -2? Let's try that. I'm going to type the same thing, I'm going to do -2. I must be. We have 36. I must have typed in something when I typed this guy in. Anyway, so I did -2. I got 36. So -2, just so you know. All right, so this is the remainder. Also, you could say that 2, -8 or -2, 36 are the coordinates on this polynomial, like wherever it's graphed. Let's do another one. All right, let's do remainder theorem to find f of 2 for this guy. So 4 squared. All right, so I'm going to type that in. 2 cubed minus 4 squared plus 5. Okay, I did that one. I got 5. Okay, so 5 is the remainder. That means x equals 2 and x minus 2 because the factor and the 0 are opposite. Right, so this is not a 0. This is not a factor. This is the remainder when I got this. It's kind of like FYI. I'm going to tie it all together in the next video or two. All right, this guy, I'm going to plug in, substitute -4. All right, this time we're not going to get nervous. I get -105. So the remainder is 105 negative. That means that x equals -4 and x plus 4 is not a factor. And this guy is not a 0. So was the remainder because it's not 0. All right, we're going to find the remainder. And so you can, if you want to, there's no, it doesn't say use this particular theorem. And so that's the deal, right? It's not going to necessarily tell you what theorem to use, which is fine. So you can use synthetic division if you want, but you just need to find the remainder. So since you're just finding the remainder, we can plug it in. We can substitute it. And so when you substitute it, it's totally fine that you skip a step right here. It's only in synthetic division that it matters that you can't skip steps. All right, and so the reason I substituted positive 3 is because we take this guy, we do x minus 3 equals 0, and we solve, and so we get positive 3. I'm going to plug that, type it into my calculator. I get negative 73. Also, x, so the remainder is negative 73. And so that means that x minus 3 is not a factor of this guy. And that means that x equals positive 3 is not a 0. All right, so we're going to do this problem. And so we have x plus 2, so we're going to do negative 2. Okay, then it went 2, there was no plain x. When we use the remainder theorem, anything except synthetic division. Synthetic division was this guy where we put this stuff up here, and we put a number here, we did some things. It's okay that we skip stuff. All right, so this here, I get negative 3, so I get the remainder. And so it just asks for the remainder. I'm telling you, just FYI, since the remainder is not 0, then that means x plus 2 is not a factor, and that x equals negative 2 is not a 0. All right, so now take those skills that you just learned, go practice, and then go watch your next video. I'll see you in a few minutes.